All right, hello. Today we're going to talk about how to set up your annotated bibliography for fences. This is your final unit assessment, and it's going to be a collection of resources. That's what an annotated bibliography really is. You're showing the resources you found, but you're also adding to the conversation and the research that you got from the articles that you picked. So when you do the annotated bib, it is an MLA style paper. There is not a lot of freedom or flexibility of how you can structure it. You have to follow the MLA format. So what we're going to do is do the classic MLA header, which is going to the header and putting in page number and doing pages classic 1 and 2. You're going to type in your last name, and you're also going to space or comma, either works. And that's going to be the only thing that repeats every page. Then you're going to click off the header and you're going to go towards the top of the document and do what I would call the intro header for page 1. That's going to include your name as the student. It's going to include the name of your teacher. It's going to include your class name, and then it's going to include the date that the assignment is due. This assignment is due on Monday the 20th, and when you do this date, you're going to do it in kind of a backwards or British style. So you're going to do 20 space month space, and then the year. No punctuation. After you get your header set up, you're going to title it Works Cited. So the thing about MLA, like I said, there's not a lot of flexibility of how you can structure this. You can't just do any type of header or style that you want. You will get a chance to play with style in your reflection paragraphs, but this is also per your professor. So when you do papers like this, you do want to ask your teacher what they prefer or what they want specifically. And I like Works Cited. There's a couple other different MLA, like I've seen annotated bibliography as a title. Some kids will do fences research, but for this, you're just going to call it Works Cited. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to start creating the citations, which you're going to use EasyBib to do that. I've already created a citation, which I'm going to paste in here if it will work. Oh no, I'll have to go back and get it in a minute. But when you create a citation, you're going to use EasyBib. EasyBib is a really nifty robot that helps you organize your citations. It basically takes the information and plugs it in for you. However, this is a big word of warning. It is a robot, and it is not to be trusted. You have to double check everything, and you have to make sure that the information lines up the way that it's supposed to. So I want to create citations, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to find my sources. So I'm going to go to my research. In a minute, you'll see I already did this research, which was my movie review, my cultural celebration. So now I'm going to go to my alternative lit, which was a poem, and I'm going to go to the original website. I've already annotated this and picked it apart, but I'm going to copy the link because it is a website that I'm borrowing from. And I'm going to paste it in here. And what it just did is it was doing its robot thing. So it was trying to get the information. First, it's going to ask you, is this the correct source? And yes, it is from poetryfoundation.org. So you're going to hit a lot of orange buttons. So I'm going to hit Cite It. Now the robot is telling me this is what it found, but this is what it's struggling to find. And these two things are very common. It struggles a lot to try to find this information. So I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to hit Continue. And then it's going to plug everything in. But like I said, all these boxes have to be double checked because they are going to have errors. Already I can tell you this box is wrong. So it's asking me for the article title, or in this case, the poem title. So the poem title is Homage to My Hips, and then it has the author's name. So you do a lot of toggling. You go from this source to this source and just back and forth, depending on how good your memory is. My memory is not good. So her name is not supposed to be in the poem title, but that's the title of the poem. Next, it's telling me who it's by, and that information is correct. And now it's going to ask me the website title and then the sponsor. And these two things tend to go together. Not always, but I would argue like 80–90% they do. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to see. I'm going to look up at the top for the name of the actual website, and it is Poetry Foundation. And then I'm going to scroll to the bottom to find out who paid for this website. That's what the sponsor or publisher is. So it looks like right here, it usually will have a copyright sign or a date next to it. But if you look at the bottom, Poetry Foundation is also the people who pay for it. So these two information pieces are correct. And then the next thing it's asking is, when was the piece published? Now this is a poem, so it's a little bit weird or a little bit different. I might actually have to do some creative searching here in a minute. But if you go back up to the top of the resource, the date of when it was published is actually right here. So it was published in 1987. Usually the publish or copyright date will be up at the top. If it's not there, then check at the bottom. If I didn't have access to that one date, there's a date right here, but that's the date for the website. It's not the date for the poem. Worst case scenario was I would have had to Google and say, when was this published? But the nice thing, it's already published as 1987. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to publish 1987. I don't have access to the date or month, and because I don't have that, don't force it, just leave it blank. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it to complete the citation. And obviously it already programmed the URL for me. So it's creating a citation, and then down at the bottom, so I've done some citing for some other sources, but here's my citation right here. So I'm going to hit copy, and then I'm going to go to my actual bibliography, and I'm going to paste it. Now this is not done, but it looks pretty good. Most citations will have this basic set of information. An author, and it's in reverse order. First name goes last, and then the last name is the first. It will have the name of the source. It will have the title of the source. It will have who pays for the source. It will have a date, and then it will have the URL. Now, this is not 100% yet. I have to do some formatting. Excuse me. But before I can do that, I need to get my other sources. So if you go here, I've already done my other source, which is my movie review, my cultural celebration. So I'm going to copy that one, and I'm going to get ready to paste it. But before I do that, I'm going to have to do it in alphabetical order. And so what's nice about this is it's already done it here. Now there might be some other ways to do EasyBib. I've seen kids who've used it on Google, like as an add-on. This is how I do it. It's how I'm comfortable doing it. But if you know a better way, go for it. So I'm going to paste the next citation in, which is right here. And then I'm going to track down my next citation, which is right here. Now this is a little bit awkward. This is a PDF file, which means I'm going to have to do some creative searching to get this one. And if you look, I do already have the name of the source, which is right here. I have who wrote it, and then when I Googled it, I found out that it was published in the New York Times in 1986. And so I'm going to recreate that citation in a few minutes, and then I'm going to program it in there. So in order to best utilize your time, ultimately I will have 4 sources cited, and that's the goal for Tuesday's class. After you put your sources in, you have to lay them out. So right now these are not laid out correctly. They need something called a hanging indent. So I'm going to highlight these, and I'm going to use this toolbar and these 2 blue icons. So I'm going to grab this entire thing. I'm grabbing close to the triangle, and I'm going to pull it to that first hash mark, which is the 0.50. It's moved all my sources over. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the skinny rectangle, and I'm going to pull that one back to the gray-white divider. That is a hanging indent. So your sources have to have that. Each source needs to have the hanging indent, and they also need to be alphabetical order based on whatever comes first. Now pretend that you don't have this information. Pretend the only thing you have is the title of the source. If that happens, you're going to put it in alphabetical order based on that, which would be the R. So after you do the works cited, you're going to have to write the reflection paragraphs, which I will share with you in another video. But so far, this looks pretty good. It has MLA, it has the proper format and structure, and then after this, you'll be able to write these things right here, which are the reflection paragraphs. which I need to copy paste into the right section to go with the sources. But that will be the focus of our next class lesson.